Nothing to see here, folks. Just another astonishing corruption story from the Trump administration. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, your home for independent political commentary, analysis, and entertainment. We're going to talk about a serious story that's genuinely kind of blowing my mind, and that has to do with some bombshell revelations about the Trump family's massive profit from their crypto businesses. I guess we'll call them businesses, though some of this is like meme coins and very, very dubious enterprises that I think are suspect rather than necessarily legitimate businesses or commodities like a Bitcoin. Anyway, before we get into that, the context that I need y'all to understand that I'm coming to this story from is I'm somebody that came up in conservative media, right-wing media, and there was for years a lot of admittedly justified in many cases, outrage and concern about things like Hunter Biden. For example, the former President Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden as well, his son Hunter was profiting off the family name, was getting appointed to the boards of Ukrainian energy companies despite not knowing anything about energy. It was one of those things that was obviously a massive red flag of self-dealing. There were similarly lots of allegations about corruption and pay for play with the Clinton Foundation, with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. And I took all of that very seriously, as did much of conservative media. In fact, there was, constant breaking news coverage of it. But now that Trump is president and making billions of dollars off of highly suspect business enterprises that his family is directly involved in, presenting clear conflicts of interest and selling access to the presidency, you're just literally not going to see it mentioned on Fox News or these kinds of right-wing media channels that would designate hours and hours and hours and hours of endless coverage to Hunter Biden, who, as corrupt and contemptible a human that he was the son of an elected official, not an actual elected official himself. Anyway, here's the story that just broke from the Wall Street Journal. We'll get into the details. Trump made more than $1 billion on crypto deals, part of 2025 windfall. The president also brought in vast sums from licensing and legal settlements, according to an annual disclosure. President Trump's forays into cryptocurrency delivered him a windfall of more than $1 billion last year, according to his latest financial disclosure report, an unprecedented surge in income that came alongside earnings from royalty deals, real estate, and legal settlements. Trump and his family invested heavily in crypto businesses during the first year of his second term that isn't just generating on-paper wealth, but real-world profits. So I'll come to this in a moment, but it has always been something that people criticize politicians for when they go into office and then vastly enrich themselves, because you're really supposed to be a public servant. He already had plenty of money going in and wasn't exactly needing to provide for his family, right? And yet, when you do engage in any kind of business activity, right, whether it's real estate, whether it's these cryptocurrency deals, or whether it's social media companies he's invested in, all of it is a clear conflict of interest with the things you're doing as president, the decisions you're making, the agencies you're staffing, the companies you're regulating, the policies that you're enacting that affect things like crypto and tech. It really, at the very least, creates this huge, huge conflict of interest that nobody ever thought was acceptable and is now just being largely overlooked and ignored because a Republican president is doing it. And I guess there's just so much going on and there's so much chaos and controversy that has just gone under the radar. But it's like, is this what draining the swamp looks like? Selling a Trump coin while you're the president? And then, as we'll get to, you get to meet with the president if you buy enough of it, essentially selling access to the Oval Office, or not the literal Oval Office, but to access to the president. Anyway, more here from the Journal. The earnings last year included $635 million in royalties through an entity linked to Trump's meme coin, which launched just days before his inauguration, and more than $500 million in proceeds from token sales by World Liberty Financial, the Trump's flagship crypto venture, according to the filing from the Office of Government Ethics. So this is an important point to note that, it's not as if he's just doing all this business activity totally separate from him being president. It is like inextricably tied up with his inauguration and ascension to the presidency, the surge in valuation that these products saw. So it's really, I mean, profiting off of the presidency to a scale we have never seen. Here's where we get into more of the conflict of interest. The Trumps operate a vast business empire whose interests stretch from hotels and golf resorts to brand licensing to drone companies. The first family has made crypto a particular focus, and the president has also advanced policies to lighten regulation of the emerging sector. Now, here's the crazy thing for me is I'm generally positive on the crypto industry, though the meme coins and other things like this don't have any real value, and invest at them at your absolute peril, because as almost everyone who bought this at its high valuations early on did, you'll lose a lot of money on them. But I'm not against light regulation of this emerging sector, but you clearly can't be making the best objective decision about what regulations to impose on this sector while your family's making billions of dollars from it. That is not a hot take. That's not a controversial opinion. That's like a basic matter of government ethics and political responsibility and anti-corruption. And the Drain the Swamp movement just literally doesn't care. I don't know. I put it like this, right? Imagine Hillary Clinton or Obama or Joe Biden had launched a cryptocurrency while they were in office, pumped it, using the surrounding events and rise to fame from their ascension to office, and even was meeting with people because they bought a lot of it. That would just be like a constant, never-ending corruption five-alarm documentary style coverage on Fox News. And not necessarily wrongly so, but it's just crickets on this because it's Trump. It's one of those things that once you see it, makes you lose faith entirely in partisan media. Really. Anyway, more from the Journal here. Government ethics watchdogs have criticized Trump for expanding his business empire while in office. Quote, "The president's conflicts of interest with the crypto industry are unprecedented," said Kedrick Payne, senior director of ethics at the Campaign Legal Center and ethics watchdog group. "We have never seen a president have direct conflicts of interest with his financial holdings and the policies he supports, and it's another example of why we need widespread ethics reform now." As in a statement Tuesday, White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly said Trump had turned America into the, quote, crypto capital of the world. Quote, "Neither the president nor his family has ever engaged or will ever engage in conflicts of interest. All actions taken by President Trump and his administration are taken in the best interest of the American people." Literally, how could that possibly be true, that they've never engaged in any conflicts of interest when they have massive crypto investments in an industry they're regulating and making decisions on? There was another story just recently that even the New York Post's editorial board, which is conservative, blasted the Trump family for, which is that they just signed a mining deal in Kazakhstan, and both companies owned by Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary's sons, or involved with his sons, and Trump's sons are directly benefiting from this deal. It is just a clear as day conflict of interest. It genuinely makes Hunter Biden pale in comparison, though that was bad and corrupt as well. And yet these White House officials will just put out these very serious, oh no, absolutely no conflict of interest, nothing to see here. I mean, come on. No one really believes that. And it's just all the more maddening because he was literally supposed to be, I'm old enough to remember the 2016 presidential primary, that he was supposed to be the anti-corruption candidate, the anti-swamp, anti-establishment, and he's just become the most swampy of them all. And the real big issue with this is the way that it essentially turns into a form of selling access to the president. Because if you are any kind of businessman, lobbyist, media personality, potential candidate, donor, anything, getting a chance to meet with the president and speak to the president and present him on your niche issue or say, hey, you really should support this or you really should do this and try to convince him is a priceless opportunity. It is something that literally lobbyists get paid tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars if they're able to arrange it, because it is so valuable given the huge, enormous role the federal government plays in shaping a massive trillions of dollars being spent and deals being blocked and allowed and not allowed. And yet, the Trump family is literally giving large holders of the meme coin a chance to meet with the president. So if you buy a lot of it, you get access to the president. And the more you buy of it, the more it becomes valuable, the more in demand it is, the more his personal valuations go up and his wealth goes up. That's insane. That is nothing short of insane. Here's from the Journal article. Trump has rapidly expanded his crypto wealth through ventures that have drawn significant scrutiny. World Liberty, co-founded by Trump and his sons, has launched both a token and a dollar-pegged stablecoin. Trump's meme coin has heavily targeted his loyal base, offering high-ranking meme coin holders dinner with the president. That is crazy. That's the craziest part of all of it. You're essentially selling access to the president of the United States for personal enrichment. And somehow we're acting like that's, I guess, just in the crazy time in politics we live in, we barely notice this kind of thing. But in a normal time, that'd be like a potential presidency ending scandal. Anyway, the other piece of that as well is that the meme coin is like a terrible investment. And I go back and forth in my head on like this. I go back and forth just in my internal monologue on this because on one hand, nobody's forced to buy this, right? These are grown adults choosing to purchase something that is worthless and they're going to lose money on. On the other hand, you are like, don't you have some responsibility as a content creator even? Because like influencers have pushed these crap coins with no real value. But especially as the president, when you have millions of loyal supporters, to not push something on them that's like, obviously they're going to lose their money. It's just the most predictable thing ever. Aren't you kind of taking advantage of them? I mean, in a sense you are, but in another sense, they're adults who make their own decisions and should do basic due diligence. And if they fail to do so, to some extent, that's on them. So while I would never do that, I would consider that like a really gross way to treat the people who've supported me. It's not necessarily something that's illegal or necessarily, you're not forcing anybody to do anything. If they're making stupid decisions, it's their own fault to some extent, but I still find it incredibly distasteful. And the numbers really do back this up, that this is just something that's lost a ton of value. And so people who bought into it would have lost a lot of money if they bought when the value was high. So here's the last bit from the Journal here. Even as crypto has proven lucrative for the president, many traders and political followers who invested in Trump-branded projects have fared poorly. The market cap for the president's meme coin reached a peak of nearly $15 billion. Before prices began to crater within days of its launch, recently veering below $400 million. World Liberty's WLFI tokens have plummeted alongside them. I mean, that's just predictable. That's what always happens with these kinds of like financial products that are just shit coins, as they're called. And I just find it to be gross. I find it really genuinely gross to have these massive conflicts of interest in industries that you are regulating and overseeing, to be profiting off of them enormously through the presidency while your supporters lose money and selling access to the president. But so many of these stories have come out about corruption allegations, about conflicts of interest, and not all of them are true. Some of them don't pan out. Obviously, we have a media that is known to cry wolf when it comes to Trump, but this is just literally reporting facts that are not in dispute from his own filings, this particular Wall Street Journal article. And I find it astonishing. And it's one of the many things that has made me lose faith in conservative and right-wing media, and even as well, though I never had much faith in them, Republican politicians, that they just scream bloody murder over Hunter Biden, over the Clinton Foundation, all these things. And again, I'm not saying they were wrong to do so, but suddenly couldn't be bothered to mention this in their coverage, or let alone hold congressional hearings demanding investigations into any of it. And I will say this, as many problems as I have with the Democrats, and as much as I think lots of their policies are still crazy town, and many of their prominent leaders are totally nutso, they will hold investigations when they take the House of Representatives into this very issue. And I think even more damning details will come to light, because I have heard from insiders in Washington how it's just like an open secret that you can essentially just buy meetings with the administration. And clearly that's not too far off, even though that's just an allegation or a rumor, if you can literally just buy a lot of the meme coin and get to meet with the president. I don't know. I genuinely have no words for how insane I find some of this stuff to be, and how bizarre I find the just total double standard on how the right approaches these issues. But you guys, let me know what you think. I guess the other thing, it could be said in reverse, that the left dismissed this stuff when it was Hunter Biden or Hillary Clinton, and now they suddenly care a lot. But I just think most Americans don't want their government run like this, and if they knew about this, would find it objectionable. That's my hot take of the day. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet. Do hit the like button. And frankly, these are the kinds of videos, my honest, independent take on like hard-hitting news stories, where I basically lose money because they don't get clicks. They only piss people off and cause people to unsubscribe. So if you do support this kind of independent commentary, do consider becoming a channel member to support me here on YouTube. It's the best way to support my work. And I also do videos reading and reacting to member comments as well. So if you sign up and leave your questions or feedback, I may respond to them on camera sometime soon. And with that, guys, that'll be it for this video. And we'll be back with more real soon.